You rendered the same scene in Kling and Runway, and one bill came out twice the other. Same prompt, same 5 seconds of footage. Hailuo just entered the chat, and now the decision got a lot messier. Kling is a raw generation engine. Runway is a full editing studio. The question is which one you actually need, and whether Hailuo changes the math at all. Test 1 is output quality. You ship a client video, the footage looks soft, the motion stutters, and they ask you to redo it. That's real time and real credibility gone. So I looked at Hailuo scores, native resolution, and motion physics, because those are the 3 things that actually show up in the final frame. I pulled the artificial analysis leaderboard, and Runway Gen 4.5 hit 1,247 Hailuo at launch, the highest published figure I could find, while Kling 3.0 Pro scored 1,241 in February 2026, so those are different testing windows, and the gap is tight. But Kling counters with native 4K at 3840 by 2160 versus Runway's 720p native, and community-reported motion tests showed Kling's physics as more realistic under fast movement. Okay, so the Hailuo scores are genuinely close, 6 points apart across different testing windows, but that's where the closeness stops. Runway is the clear winner on cinematic art direction and peak quality consensus, while Kling wins on raw sharpness and motion physics. Hailuo has no published benchmark figures at all, so it just can't be scored here. Runway takes test 1, its 1,247 Hailuo and community-wide reputation for cinematic realism and art direction give it the edge, even though Kling's 4K output is genuinely sharper at the pixel level. That puts Runway on the board first, Kling 0, Runway 1, Hailuo 0. I've spent enough time inside these tools to know exactly where the billing surprises hide. Drop a comment below if the credit math has ever caught you off guard. Test 2 is generation speed. You're iterating on a single scene, 10 takes, small prompt tweaks each time, and every extra 30 seconds per render adds up to 5 minutes of dead time per scene. At scale, that's a real workflow tax, so I dug into the published per clip numbers for both Kling and Runway's turbo tiers. Here's what I found. Kling 2.5 Add Turbo publishes around 25 seconds per clip in standard mode, while Runway Gen 4 Turbo claims 30 seconds for a 10-second video. That's a vendor-claimed figure, so treat it directionally. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Both tools have speed-optimized tiers, which is useful, but Kling's numbers are more consistently documented across sources. Now, the caveat here is that Runway's 30-second figure is for a 10-second video, while Kling's 25-second figure is for a shorter standard clip, so the comparison isn't perfectly apples to apples. Even with that in mind, Kling's documentation is more consistent, and its turbo tier is more reliably fast across multiple sources, so the directional call still goes to Kling. Kling takes test 2. Its roughly 25-second turbo clips are the fastest consistently documented figure in this comparison, and that matters when you're iterating fast. That ties it up. Kling 1, Runway 1, Hailuo 0. Test 3 is pricing and credits. You're generating 100 5-second clips for a project, and you're watching the credit meter tick at roughly 60 cents per clip on one platform versus 25 cents on another. That's $60 versus $25 for the same output. That difference compounds fast, so I mapped the per clip cost and the free tier math for both Kling and Runway. I ran the numbers, and Kling's 5-second clip runs about 25 credits, which works out to somewhere between a quarter and 33 cents depending on your plan, while Runway's equivalent is 60 credits at roughly 60 cents. So Kling is about twice as cheap per clip. Runway does win on the free tier with 125 one-time credits versus Kling's 0 on the basic plan. But Kling's entry paid plan at $6.99 undercuts Runway's $12 start. The one honest caveat: If you're just starting out and want to test before spending anything, Runway's 125 free credits are genuinely more useful than Kling's 0 credit basic plan. But once you're past that free window, Kling is cheaper at every tier, and the API per second cost lands at 0.12 for both, so the free tier advantage doesn't last long. Kling takes test 3 on pricing. Roughly half the per clip cost at scale is a decisive advantage, and I didn't expect the gap to be that clean given how close the quality scores were. That puts Kling ahead. Kling 2, Runway 1, Hailuo 0. So Kling is ahead on cost and speed, but the next two tests are style control and platform limits. And style control is where Runway's paintable motion tools could make the whole cost argument irrelevant if you're doing serious production work. That result is still ahead, and it's the one that decides whether Kling's lead actually holds. Test 4 is style control and consistency. You're running a multi-scene sequence and your lead character's face changes between shots. That's a real production failure, and fixing it manually costs hours. I looked at character consistency rates, motion control tools, and how many reference images each platform actually accepts. Watch what happens when you compare the control toolsets. Runway's motion brush lets you paint regions to direct movement, and director mode gives you real camera lens simulation. Community consensus calls it the most precise control among competitors. Kling's Subject Binding 3.0 claims under 10% variation rate across shots, which is the strongest quantified consistency metric, and it accepts up to 10 reference images versus Runway's 1 to 4. Kling's under 10% variation claim is vendor stated, so treat it as directional rather than verified. And community reports do flag character consistency failures in Kling despite that marketing. Runway's motion brush is the real differentiator here. Granular, paintable, and genuinely useful for production work where Kling's per-shot framing just can't match that level of control. Runway takes test 4, its paintable motion regions and director mode. Camera controls are genuinely more precise than anything Kling's multi-shot mode offers, and I didn't expect that gap to be as wide as the community consensus made it. That ties the series back up. Kling 2, Runway 2, Hailuo 0. Test 5 is platform availability and limits. You're delivering a 4K asset for a client, and your tool caps out at 720p native. That's a problem you find out about after you've already burned the credits. I looked at resolution ceilings, max FPS, clip length, and ecosystem maturity for both Kling and Runway. I had to run it twice to be sure. Kling 3.0 outputs native 4K at 3840 by 2160 and up to 60 FPS, while Runway Gen 4.5 is 720p native at 24 FPS, with 4K only available through a separate upscale step. Kling also supports clips up to 15 seconds versus Runway's 10-second cap, though Runway's editing suite ecosystem is more mature for full end-to-end production workflows. The honest nuance is that Runway's editing suite ecosystem is genuinely more mature, built for end-to-end production rather than raw generation alone. But on technical specs, Kling wins every single ceiling. 4K native, 60 FPS, 15-second clips. If you need the full studio workflow, Runway's suite matters. If you need the sharpest output specs, Kling isn't close. Kling takes test 5, native 4K, 60 FPS, and 15-second clips are a clean sweep on technical specs, and that's the tiebreaker. Final score, Kling 3, Runway 2, Hailuo 0. Kling wins on sharpness, cost, and output specs. Native 4K and 60 FPS versus Runway's 720p native. Per clip costs somewhere between a quarter and 33 cents versus Runway's 60 cents. Generation speed around 25 seconds on turbo. Clip lengths up to 15 seconds and up to 10 reference images for consistency work. That's a lot of practical advantages stacked in one place. Runway wins on peak quality and creative control. It hit 1R247 Elo at Gen 4.5 launch, the highest published figure in this comparison. The motion brush and director mode tools are the most precise available for directing movement and camera behavior. The free tier gives you 125 one-time credits to test with, and the editing suite ecosystem is more mature for full production pipelines. Hailuo is the new contender, and I couldn't find published Elo scores, pricing, or resolution specs for it in any of the sources I checked. So there's no dimension where Hailuo clearly beats Kling or Runway on verifiable data right now. What it does signal is more competition coming into the raw generation space, which is worth watching. If you want the best value per second of video, pick Kling. It's cheaper, it's faster, and it's sharper, and that roughly 2x per clip cost gap compounds fast at scale. If you need peak cinematic art direction and granular motion control, Runway's motion brush and director mode justify the premium. One thing that doesn't show up in the pricing pages, Runway's Act 2 feature for multi-character dialogue is a separate workflow with its own credit cost structure, and it's easy to burn through your plan allowance without realizing it's metered differently. Check that setting before you run a long dialogue scene. It's not obvious from the main credit calculator. If you're still deciding between Kling and its closest competitor on raw generation, I went deep on exactly that. In Luma versus Kling, which is better? The resolution and motion physics results there are pretty interesting, and they add more context to what we just covered.